Welcome back. Episode 2 of, we have a name now,
Yeah.
Parents with Questions.
Yeah, we're parents. We have questions, and we're guessing you are too.
Yeah, most parents have questions, and not many parents have the answers, unless they've gone through it before, which we haven't. So you're back for a second episode. This is your second podcast episode ever.
Ever. And I actually can't believe we made it back onto the set, our homemade set, because sometimes we do things and we're really excited about them, and then they just fizzle out because life takes over.
You say we, but you really mean
You
as in me, because I have started many a podcast, and many of them, actually not many of them, have got to episode number 2. Only a few of them have.
That's sad.
That's true, but it's also happy because we're at episode number 2. So what did you think about your experience on episode number 1, and why did you come back?
I received a lot of feedback from my mom's group friends, and it was just so encouraging to feel that, or to know that they feel a lot of the same things that we feel, and they ask themselves the same questions that we asked ourselves, and they were looking forward to us continuing this because they were pretty confident that we followed similar journeys and we thought the same things. And so it was just like another pat on the back. Hey, you're not alone. Hey, there's someone else that feels like I do. Hey, this is normal.
That's right. So if you didn't listen to episode number 1, you can go back and listen to it. But also we should give you a little bit of a format introduction if this is your first episode listening or watching on YouTube. But before we do that, just because it's still early, I want to say that you can watch the show on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Shaheed. And then you can also listen to the show on iTunes and Google Play if you prefer listening to podcasts in audio format. But that's it. I'm not going to say that again until the end.
Okay.
So each week on this show, we ask ourselves a question, but we also ask the listeners and watchers who are parents a question as well. That's the same question or a similar question.
Yes.
And then we try and answer it, and we hear from them, and we see if we can make sense of this weird and crazy life called parenting.
And just to be clear, we don't always have the answer. We're not claiming that we're going to answer your question. It's just sort of to raise discussion.
Yeah, they're mainly our questions.
Yeah, it's to raise discussion points. It's just to find, a few different opinions on the matter, and hopefully we can walk away with one that makes sense for us.
Yeah, our lawyer told us to say that. This is not parenting advice. We don't have a lawyer. We don't have a lawyer. This week's question, it surrounds me time.
Yeah.
And really, like, does me time exist as a parent, or when does it exist? But before we get to me time, there's something else about this show that we didn't get to in the first episode, which we will get to hopefully every week. And that's just updating the world, or whoever's watching. I mean, the world that you can count on 2 hands, about what's going on with our family. And why do we do that? Why do we want to do that?
I think it's a great way for us to just relive the past week or a couple of weeks, and to remember and to reflect on all the good and all the bad that has happened, because they often go hand in hand. And it's not roses and it's not dirt. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. And
it's the good,
that's
the bad,
life.
and the broccoli, which, like we talked about last week, was a potential name for this show.
It was. It didn't make it.
And also, we tried to make a video blog every week, a vlog on YouTube to document a little bit of our life that week and what's going on with the kids, and to make sure we capture them growing up. But we can't do that every day, and we don't really get too in depth about what happened in the past week in the one video. So here's a chance for us to update and reflect, like you said. So what's
been happening?
What's up with your children, Sheeba?
Well, your children, Shaheed, have been teething like
Shaheed,
crazy. That's a different topic. Okay. I think I've called you many names in our relationship together.
Not all of them are appropriate for this show. Actually, I've got a beep sound here, so you can go for it. We just have to time it properly.
There you go. And I lost my train of thought.
I don't even know where you were.
Oh, yes. Your children, Shaheed, have been teething like crazy. I feel like they each have 12 teeth, which is a crazy amount of teeth.
You feel like that, or they do?
No, they do have 12 teeth, and I feel like that's a crazy amount of teeth for being almost 15 months old. They're just all chompers, these guys, and they are letting me know it. Biting every single second. Each other, us, the couch, balloons. You're not supposed to bite balloons, by the way.
Well, maybe
everything.
we shouldn't give balloons to babies that are teething.
Maybe, but sometimes sanity calls for it.
Truth.
Yes.
Yeah, so they're a handful these days, which is I guess to be expected because they're not, you know what, they're not babies anymore. They're almost 15 months old and they're walking and they're talking a lot. We counted
Almost running.
Yeah, pretty much running all the time. We counted how many words they can say each and they pretty much can say the same words.
Yes.
And I think we're up to like 13 or 14 words. So they're walking and running and talking. And they're starting to test us and each other.
And they know it. And they know it because they do something and they give you that glance like, what are you going to do, Mom?
Or they look at you right before they're going to do something.
And then they do it.
Can I do it? Can I do it? And then they do it.
And then they do it. I'm going to coin a term here that I found just this last week, which is sort of what's new this week, from Busy Toddler. And she calls them tabbies. And they're not
Tabbies.
babies, and they're not
cats.
And they're not quite. Yeah, that's true.
That's a nickname for a tiger cat.
But she coined a term for her 18-month-old, who she doesn't consider a baby anymore because he's doing all those things like talking and walking and communicating. But he's not quite a toddler yet, so he's not totally independent. So he's somewhere in the middle, and I love that word, tabby.
True. Is toddler going to be better? As in more manageable? Probably not, because they do talk about the terrible twos. Hey, that's
and
a question.
threes.
Is toddler going to be better? No, that's not what we're talking about today. But
no. But that's also what's new. We tried some new activities like a sensory rice bin. We've continued to go to play gyms. We have just been doing and growing
birthday parties.
And I've just been so impressed with the skills that they have, like pulling little Cheerios off of skewer sticks and keeping rice in a bin when, you would think it would be free for all. It's pretty impressive.
We tried Fresh Prep and Hello Fresh over the last week or two.
Yes.
That was interesting because we haven't really cooked, and this is probably related to our topic of the week and our question of the week with regards to me time. But we really haven't found or made maybe the time to cook, and so we finally got around to getting somebody other than our mothers to cook for us.
Yes.
And what did you think? I my opinions, but why don't you share yours?
I absolutely loved the ease of the meals. It was 30 minutes maximum, and it was delivered to our door, which was amazing. I didn't have to run out for groceries because it's either me doing it with the kids in tow or you coming home a bit later, stopping in a grocery store. So this way we kind of eliminated that, and we got to cook our meals together, which was nice because it only took 30 minutes.
Yeah, it was nice in that everything was prepped because, as you know, I'm not a huge fan of prepping, but I do like cooking. But the cooking did take some time, at least half an hour. They say 30 minutes, but usually more than that.
You have to wait for the oven to preheat.
You're not eating until 8 or past 8:30 one day, and that cuts into the evening. You don't have a lot of time after that. But it was nice to not have to prep and then to cook together, like you said. Food was okay.
Yeah, it was.
Hello Fresh was better than Fresh Prep.
Burn.
You don't agree?
No, I do agree.
Yeah, obviously this show is not sponsored by
No.
Fresh Prep, but hey, we're open to trying again if you want us to. Anyways, yeah. So that's our week.
That's our week.
A little bit
in a nutshell.
Probably about time to get to our question of the week. What are we going to say the question is? It already says it in the title, but really I think when it comes down to it, it is how important is me time, and is it even possible? And it's a bit ironic that we are talking about that. And somebody also said this to us the other day, in that, like, you guys are talking about me time. You do so much in that you record video blogs and you start a podcast, and Sheeba does all these things with food and sensory bins and all that. Like, how do you have time? How do you find time? And we're sitting here podcasting and talking about me time. So a bit ironic in that.
Yes.
My answer to that question is it has been tough.
It has been really tough. I cannot tell you how much I've struggled with that idea, with that concept this past week. That has been one of my biggest challenges this past week. And
also irony.
I felt like it was just talking about this topic. We picked it before I even experienced this week, and it just so happened to be like the bane of my existence. I just couldn't figure out a way to get some me time, and it was really hard. It was really hard.
Yeah, and that's, I think, I guess it shows the importance of me time. Is when you don't have it, you feel it. And that's probably why a lot of parents, especially new parents, in the first year especially, end up feeling so low, not solo alone, but so low, like low as in opposite of high. They feel so low because they and we basically have to sacrifice ourselves for our kids. We say have to. I mean, that's something that we talked about last week in terms of preparing for children. Right. One of the biggest things you can do is understand what sacrifice is. And if you don't, you'll find out. You'll sacrifice yourself and your time. Yeah.
That reminds me of something that one of the Facebook groups that I'm a part of is called All the Mama Feels. And she recently Instagrammed this quote, I think that she made up. And it was just so powerful towards our topic last week, because it's like, how can you prepare for something you have never done before? And so books and theology can get you so far, but experiencing it is something totally different. And it was like, okay, sure, I can prepare for a baby, but don't forget to also prepare for yourselves. This is a new role for you that you've never been in before. So it's not even just managing the new addition to your family, it's also managing this new concept of yourself that for me, for example, 31 years, I would never have thought to experience before.
What's interesting about me time is that it's a fluid thing. And even in the first 15 months or even 12 months of being a parent, it changed for us so many times. Right. So early on, it was kind of all me time and no me time, and that we were just focused on being parents, but that's what we wanted to do. So we didn't really need anything different. Right. But then that got old pretty quickly. And so we needed to find some time. And you found it.
We're bad parents.
I found this. I mean, I have this in my notes.
Okay.
You found time for yourself in the form of 10 seasons of Friends.
That's true.
You watched 10 seasons,
all
10 seasons of Friends in like the span of 2 months, maybe?
Even less.
That's honest of you.
Yes.
That's really honest of you. So you didn't have a lot of time to go exercise or energy or physical capability even at that point to do it, but you found pockets of time to do something that you enjoyed.
I did.
Was that enough at that point?
I would think so. I think our situation is a little bit unique compared to those that surround us. Again. Not better or worse, just different, because we have twins that are the same age that both require the same amount of attention at the same time that one baby needs, but we just had to do it double in capacity. It's not like having a young kid and an older kid that you can kind of send off to do an activity or to engage with a show or something like that, because they both needed you in the same way at the same time. And so those pockets of time that I found to watch Friends was while I was breastfeeding in the middle of the night when I needed something to keep me awake.
Yeah, and that's probably common for moms that, Friends, quote unquote, saved them at that time.
Yes.
But it's changed.
It has. And I just wanted to go back to last week's episode where I talked about something that I wasn't ready for was just the emotional responsibility of having a baby. And it wasn't the diapers, it wasn't the nap schedules or the feedings, and because all of those things I anticipated, I could prepare for. I could say, you know what, that's going to be crazy and meet that expectation. It was just constantly thinking about babies 24/7 that I just wasn't prepared for. It was like my brain couldn't shut off. And that was the hard part. That was the hardest part, I think, for me. We differed. We experienced hardships differently up until this point. And for me, that was the one. It was just, it's on me. And that was a lot to take in.
Yeah, I think me time falls into 3 categories. And I think the one you're talking about is kind of self-care. Or I mean, they're all breaks from parenting for one. Right. But they all serve a different purpose. And self-care is one of them. Yes. Mental health, physical health. I think that's one category that me time can fall under. Hobbies and social time, playing golf, going out for a drink with friends, reading, whatever it is, making YouTube videos, podcasts, hobbies. And then there's like the couples parent/date things that you did as a couple before you had kids that you certainly don't do anymore after having kids. So there's a lot of ways to experience me time, not a lot of time to experience me time.
No.
But that's the one thing. It's all about perspective, and I think this is probably a good time to get into the first answer to our question from one of our loyal listeners and viewers of our 2 episodes so far. This first response about me time is from Sarah. So let's have a listen.
Hey Sheeba and Shaheed. Okay, something about me time here. I think it's really important to know that me time is still very much possible when you're a new parent or a parent in general. It's just going to look completely different from when you are not a parent. So whether you're having a drink with a friend, or having a hot bath at home, when baby's still at home with your spouse, you're going to be connected to your child in one way or another. When you're out with your friend, you're going to be talking about your baby, which means you're probably going to be thinking about your baby. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. And if you're at home having a hot bath, chances are you're probably looking at a bunch of pictures of your baby because you just miss your baby so much. It's possible. It's so important. Never underestimate the value of it because it will keep you sane, even if it's just a couple minutes, but it's just going to look completely different. I think the big thing for me that I was so appreciative for was just having my husband know that I needed to be someone that needed to be pushed to have alone time. I think when you become a parent, it's really natural to not think about yourself first and foremost. You have this tiny human that you're responsible for and that you have to take care of and is your priority. So for me, I'm not someone that craves alone time, or back then, before I was a parent, I was never someone that needed alone time. I'd much rather prefer to be around a bunch of people. Hated being alone for the most part, to be totally honest. So I didn't think I needed it when I became a mom either. And it wasn't until one day, I think, that I was totally having like this meltdown and crying about how hard it was just to have a breather, right? And so my husband, Mike, just pushed me out the door and told me, I think I went grocery shopping by myself or something, or maybe I went actually shopping to get something for myself. I don't even remember, but I needed it so bad. And now, like parents, you will understand how amazing it is to just go grocery shopping by yourself, which sounds so lame, but it's so true. And I feel like only parents will actually be able to understand that. But my point of all of this little ramble is just to know your spouse, and know yourself. So if you're someone that needs to be pushed, or if you're in a relationship with someone that needs to be pushed, encourage them to do it. Encourage them to make the time for it, because it will make the world of a difference. Even 30 minutes of alone time is gold.
Yeah, I think that's quite relevant to both of our situations here, in that I don't think I would have been able to find time for myself in this first 15 months if you didn't tell me that it's okay, I'm fine, you can go, because you knew I needed that push to get out the door, because I deal with like super amounts of guilt and anxiety about leaving for whatever the reason. So I had a tough time doing it without that pat on the back or kick in the butt.
Push.
Yeah, push out the door, down the stairs. No, that was you who fell down the stairs.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, burn.
That's a story for another day. But anyways, like that's me, and I needed that push. And so Sarah's totally right about the importance of having to, or not having, but of knowing what your spouse and what you need.
Yes, especially if you can't do it yourself or ask for it yourself. That's really important. I laughed at when she said how grocery shopping could be such a pleasurable experience when you're doing it alone.
Yeah,
and that's like considered me time.
We haven't fought about it, but we kind of put our hands up. Say, I'll do the grocery shopping.
I'll go.
Yeah, you stay at home. You just relax. I'll do the grocery shopping.
That never happened before.
No, it was always me.
It was always you go.
Yeah,
it was
always you go.
Yeah, there you go. But I have totally experienced that. I can walk through the aisles slowly. I can take my time. I can go back and forth and not have to plan out a route of action so that I'm using as little amount of time as possible. It's nice. And it's so crazy that is nice.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about before Sarah's clip there. Perspective changes. What considers me time, what me time is, what you consider me time, that changes. And what you consider self-care and what you consider rejuvenating, that all changes. I think unfortunately for us and me specifically in this situation, I realized, and I think you also did, you realized a lot of things about yourself personally after having kids, after becoming a parent. And maybe it isn't a coincidence, and maybe it is, but I realized that I want to pursue something sort of different in my career, and I realized I needed a change in my job situation, and I wanted, those are two different things, but with regards to the career, I want to go in a direction that requires more time to myself. Well, I have less time to myself than I ever have now.
Yeah, that's right.
Is it a coincidence that I've realized these things because maybe I want to get out of the house and have time to myself? I don't know. But it is a little ironic, and you really have to take what you get, I guess, because perspective.
Yeah, that's right. Before having kids, I was a homebody, and I liked being a homebody. I liked sitting on the couch and watching a movie, or having family time, or playing board games, or just being at someone's house, more so than being out and about. And I was good with going with the flow. And I think for the most part I still am, except now there's this little voice that is creeping louder and louder every day saying, this is what I want to do, or this is what I'm interested in, or this is what I need to do right now so that I can save my sanity.
Like, you've never wanted to travel, but suddenly you want to travel and get out of not only the house, but the town and the country.
Yes, that's right.
And it's probably harder than ever now to do it, but you did by yourself. Well, not by yourself, but without
you.
Me, but with two parents and a brother and two babies. But that's a daunting task, but it's the change in scenery that you crave, because every day is so similar and can sometimes feel like a form of modern warfare. This thing just like poking at you in the head every day, and if it doesn't change, sometimes you feel like it's going to drive you crazy. So I think this probably leads into the second clip we have, which is from Sonal, who talks about me time versus downtime, and are they the same thing?
I think as a new parent, it is possible to have me time. If you asked me 9 months ago when my daughter was first born, I would have likely said no way, and I even thought it would be a little selfish of me to have that me time, but I now realize that it was way more important for me to have that time then, just so I could mentally be prepared for the hard days that were to come. Now that she's older, I find that having me time is a little bit easier because she is a little bit more independent, and for me, me time isn't time away from her or my husband necessarily, that I just go out or something. Me time is just any moment in the day that I can kind of step back, relax, maybe drink some coffee, have a meal, any sort of downtime. So ways that I've realized that I can incorporate that me time in the day is just maybe putting her in a stroller and going for a walk, having coffee while I'm walking, or if I just feel that lunch isn't going to be something that I can handle at home one day, I take her out, and she really enjoys just sitting in a high chair looking around while she nibbles on something while I have a meal peacefully to myself. And it's what you define as me time, so as long as you make it an important part of your life with a new baby, I think that any new parent can have that time. It's just something that you have to prioritize into your day. And it's really hard. Like I said, I did think it was selfish, but it really isn't, because I found that when I had that time, I was much happier. I was an even better parent, even though I'm learning how to be a parent still. I was a better parent to her, and I enjoyed my time even more with her.
So many things in that video.
Yeah, but what she said last was really interesting.
I thought somewhere in the middle was most interesting, and it connected to Sarah's point, is that it will look different than before having kids, because obviously your situation is different than before you had kids. But it was all about adjusting your expectations, not just giving up and compromising so much, but just adjusting your expectations, because you could make a coffee break a me time break. If that's just how you...
Well, that means I have a lot of me time every day.
Yeah, that's a different topic. It's like, like just altering your perspective on the matter. And it's like, if you can say that this amount of time, or this, for me, enjoying this cup of coffee is a good enough break for me, then yes, I think that is me time for you. And that is something that's going to charge you up again. And for the next moment, or for the next nap time, until you get to that point, it's something that gives you a little bit of energy.
Yeah, I think you're able to relate to that a lot too, because you often say, I want to have my tea and that will be enough, or coffee and that will be enough. Oftentimes you're not getting through your cup of coffee or tea during the day. And does that mean you haven't had your me time? Probably.
Yeah.
But like you said, if you can get through that cup of tea and have 10 minutes to yourself before one of the kids wakes up from the nap, then you're probably okay for the day.
Yes. But I'm going to cut in there and say that as much as that has happened in the 15 months, that is probably my perspective changing a lot, in terms of there's two of them. And up until recently, where they're becoming a lot more independent and just realizing that there's another body there that they can interact with, it was always two set of hands on deck at all times.
Or free time divided by two.
Yes.
Because nap time for one ends right when nap time for the
two
other
starts.
Like there are days like that. There were rare days for us. Our nap time was almost coincidental for us, but still.
And I feel almost bad saying this, because we are so lucky to have so much help. I mean,
and also probably among the easiest kids ever. They haven't given us many troubles,
thanks, guys.
except for the visits to the emergency rooms, which were not fun. But aside from that, there really hasn't been a ton of roadblocks for us.
No,
and yet it's felt so difficult.
And at 6 months, when you changed jobs and you were out of the house for this job, we had your mom, my aunt, our brother and sister-in-law come over. Literally, guys, every single day. There was not one day where I had to do alone, apart from the ones where someone was sick or last minute, or I chose to because I just wanted some alone time with the boys. But even so, it was like Shaheed wasn't here, but there was another body here. But I never felt like I could disengage. I could never take a real break, because there was two babies. And they required two sets of bodies to take care of those two babies.
Yeah.
And so it was really hard for me to break away from them. And so just having a cup of tea became my me time, because that's all I thought I could take.
Yeah, and I'm not going to devalue your point, but I think there is another factor to it, and which is one that I experienced a lot, and is what Sonal said at the end of her clip, and that was the me time making you a better parent. So like, with the anxiety and guilt that I was talking about with myself, I ended up feeling so bad about leaving or doing things for myself, and was struggling so hard to make that decision, that I ended up being not even a bad parent, but like a terrible person just to be around a lot of the time. And that's not beneficial to anyone. For sure, it's not beneficial to me or healthy for me, but it's not beneficial to the kids to see me and have me like that. And I'm not being a parent when I'm like that. So, just going out, playing a hockey game for an hour and a half or 2 hours, or taking the time to go, downstairs and record a YouTube video, whatever it is, that gives me energy and it does rejuvenate me, and then I can be a better parent. But I think it's a very difficult decision to make for a lot of people, and it ends up hurting them as people and parents, and that's the ironic part about it.
Yeah, it's definitely not an easy decision to make, but of course, once you do experience it, and no matter what time capacity that is, you know, it's like instantly gratifying and rejuvenating and instantaneously, you know, awakening that you're like, oh my God, that is so important, and I need to do more of that for myself.
Okay, we've got one last clip here. Do you want to tee it up, as they say in the broadcast business?
Do you know what that mean? I do know what that means.
Okay.
It means give us a little intro into the video that we're going to watch and the person that's going to say it.
Oh, I know what it means.
Oh, I know. I'm just showing you that I do.
Okay. Go
little
for it.
mansplaining. Is that what it's called?
Man, that's a decent example of mansplaining.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, but you're not a man.
No, I'm not. The next speaker is somebody named Liz. We went to teaching school together, and she now has 3 kids.
Yeah, so she's further along in this
the journey
process than a lot of the people we've heard from. Peter Verge last week, who shared his story, is about at the same point too. But him and Liz are the only 2 so far.
That's right. Liz, I hope this is okay for me to share, but she had 2 premature babies that required some stay in the NICU. And of course, that takes up a lot of your time, and it's so stressful in the beginning. So I'm really looking forward to her response, because she's coming at it from a different perspective that we luckily, unfortunately, have not had to experience. And so
she's going to help us understand whether this is going to get better in terms of me time.
That's right.
So you're probably wondering, is it possible to have me time when you have kids? Well, I have 3 kids. Oldest is almost 5, middle is 3, and the youngest is 1. And in 5 years, I can honestly say it has been very, very, very difficult to find me time. It's something that you definitely need as a new mom or a new parent all around. But it can be difficult. Newborns keeping you up all night, toddlers driving you crazy, people that go back to work. I have been lucky enough to not have to go back to work full-time yet, but I've worked part-time here and there, done photography, and between trying to keep up the house and look after the kids and just keep things in order, it's very, very difficult. So 5 years after my first child, I finally started to realize that me time is very important, very, very important. I have started going to the gym once a week for me time, even 30 to 40 minutes. I just came back from a movie theater. Haven't been to a movie in 10, 15 years, but it was awesome. Went with my best friend, and 3.5 hours away. Just totally is amazing. I don't even know what the word is, but it's revitalizing. So me time is definitely very important as a new parent. Is it hard? Yes. Finding balance, trying to make it work. You and your partner need to make it work. You and your husband, you and your wife. It's very, very important, especially for a new mom. Mental health, super important. And just being able to just get out, go for a walk, leave a messy sink, leave the laundry, and just focus on yourself. It's so, so, so important. Hard to achieve, but you need to find a balance somewhere. And I actually have found that it's been easier to do as the kids get older. When they're babies, they're toddlers, they're clingy, you feel bad leaving them. Only you can put them to bed. I'm starting to find more time to do it because it's easier to leave them.
So there is hope. There's hope for us new parents.
Yes,
Just
but
wait a few years.
5 years. 5 years for Liz.
Yeah.
The good news is I don't know if there are any more kids in our future, but once they get to the toddler stage, it gets easier.
Yeah, and I think she mentioned a lot of what we've talked about already, but what it brought up in my mind, again, is something we talked about last week. And Peter, who I was just talking about, mentioned in his response last week was support systems. And if you can find a good support system that's physical around you, that can come support you in your environment, then obviously you can find more time for me time. But you still feel the guilt leaning on them so much, but you got to do it. But anyways, yeah, we've leaned on our support systems a lot. And
Too much?
Yeah, and that's the thing, that it gets really difficult because, like you said, they're here every day supporting you with the two kids.
Yes.
That it makes it difficult for us to ask them to stay after hours or on the weekend for us to actually go do something. So that's been one of the difficulties for me with me time.
Yeah. It's not that we've asked them and they've said no. It's just that we've stalled in even asking them because we feel bad that they've
Already
given us
so
much time. Yeah.
Anything else to say about Liz's response? Could you leave a messy sink and go do something, like she said?
Ask me that 3 months ago, 2 months ago, even 1 month ago, and I would say absolutely not. Or yes, I could, but I had to have it done at nap time. I couldn't let it sit through nap time. And that's something I struggled with a lot, and you know this because you're often telling me just to leave it till the next morning. I just can't. And it's something that I'm trying to find a balance with. And so now I can steal myself away to go to the play gym with the boys or for a walk and then come back and deal with it. So,
and that's what Liz said at the end of her clip. It's all about finding a balance. And for everyone, that balance is going to be different. It's going to take a while to find that. For me, like saying to leave that sink of dishes until tomorrow morning because I know tomorrow morning is open, that is a form of giving myself some time and some self-care. It's just like a break mentally and saying, I don't need to clean. I don't need to feel anxious about having a clean space. I would rather just give myself a break right now and do it in the morning because I know I'm going to be rested. And the morning is when it all starts again. So I'm ready for it. But now, if I don't need to do it, I'm not going to do it. And it doesn't happen every night. No.
And I'm the total opposite. For me, it's like, why leave it for tomorrow when who knows how they're going to sleep tonight? Who knows what they're going to wake up like? Who knows what tomorrow's going to be like? That I just wanted to get it over with and reset at the end of my night because that's when our night ends. It's just a complete reset so that tomorrow can truly be a brand new day. But speaking of stealing myself away for a bit, for me, I don't even think we've defined it for ourselves, but for me time isn't so much as sitting in the house while the kids are here. It is physically, as much as this is possible, removing my brain from being where I am in the moment. And so it's like, it's kids, brain, and they're not together. And that's because I'm constantly thinking about what's coming up next. What food do we have set up for the next meal? What activity do I have planned for today? How's our day going? Is bedtime going to be on schedule? And so many factors like that for me time is really like, okay, just a full hard stop in my thinking
and doing someone else with your brain would
and
help.
Someone else taking over.
Yeah. So you got to get yourself kind of out of the physical environment, but then you also have to have your brain working on something else too, whether it's reading or social or watching a movie or something where you can't be planning for the next stage.
And, importantly, not even just after the kids go to bed, because that's cleanup time.
That's dead time.
That's reset time.
I like to call that the calm after the storm.
That's right.
Where you think of, this is my analogy, think of a natural disaster like a tornado ripping through a city and it's chaos, it's hectic, you're trying to survive. And then the tornado's gone and like the clouds open up and it's a sunny day and you're like, oh, we got through it. But now there's a city to rebuild. Or a bunch of dishes to clean
every single night.
Exactly. And so that I like to call it the calm after the storm. And that's not me time, really.
No.
But that kind of is the time that we have every night. So let's to finish the discussion on this question, not to answer, remember, but to finish the discussion.
We clearly don't have an answer here.
What does me time look like for us on a daily basis?
Well, it looks like...
For you specifically, I guess, and I can answer too.
Specifically, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm here at home with the kids. with someone, and that looks like taking a moment to sit at the table and have my tea, and to have a meal, and to go for a walk, and for 20 or 30 minutes, sometimes even an hour if the weather is nice, just being outside because the kids are totally engaged in something other than me or each other, because right now they're biting. And it's just such a peaceful, calm time where they love pointing out things that they recognize. And it's a fun, light kind of environment. That's the walk, or just having me time where whoever's here helping me that day is sort of entertaining the kids in our play space, which is right here.
And then at night, in the evening?
Probably watching a show. My favorite is when you actually agree to giving me a little foot rub, because then it's like completely relaxation time, and it's time where I can just kind of sit and enjoy and just zone out. Often looking at my phone or reading a book while you're doing that, which is really nice.
Or a podcast or YouTube video.
Yes. But Tuesday, Thursday, it's a different kind of me time, because I know we'll talk about this more in probably a different episode. I've gone back to work part-time, and like I said, if me time at this moment is just mentally shutting off from the kids for a couple hours, then work does that. Even though it's putting my mind somewhere else and not necessarily on me, it's just something different. And I can focus on something else, like teaching kids how to read, and it's not constantly worrying about how these guys are doing or what they're eating or things like that, it's been really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about for you?
For me, I mean, I do work full time Monday to Friday. And that, I guess, is that type of me time that you were talking about when you're kind of, your brain is disengaged from parenting. So you have a little bit of a break that way. So that's not the type of me time that I guess I find that I need. And that goes back to perspective about what we want and what we need, and that changing. So I don't necessarily consider that me time. And there's my spoiled point of view, because if I was in your position, then I would certainly feel great, I think, to have that time. So for me time really looks like the 45 minutes to an hour to sometimes an hour and a half that we have in the evening after everything's cleaned up and dinner's eaten, or if I'm able to wake up before the kids, which I try to do, but they beat me to it a lot of the time, then I sit on the computer, do some work, like YouTube type work or video work that I want to do personally, or go to the gym, and so it's doing things that I have a passion for, mainly, that is me time for me, and it's difficult. It's funny, I posted the question on Reddit in the parenting groups, and I mentioned that I'm only getting 45 minutes a night on average of me time, and someone's like, well, that's good. What are you complaining about? And I guess it is, because even people who don't have kids barely get more than 45 minutes a night, especially if you're living outside of the city and you're working in the city and you have to commute more than an hour each way. I mean, 45 minutes a night it's a lot for a weeknight. And then your whole weekend is kind of me time if you can plan it properly. So I guess the moral of the story is just alter your perspective and you'll be fine.
Just give up on life.
This is why we don't give advice.
I know this whole episode has sounded kind of bleak.
I know. This was the worry about this type of podcast.
If you're thinking of having children,
parents usually complain about being parents.
I'm just kidding. I love these guys.
Sheeba, I've never heard you like this.
I know. It's my alter ego at 9:19 p.m.
That probably means it's bedtime. Anyway, so that's the me time discussion. Can you have it? How do you have it? And is it important? Those are our thoughts from Sarah, Sonal, and Liz. So thank you, ladies.
Thank you guys so much
for sharing. And one thing that I haven't talked to you about yet, which we can do later, but I think it'd be useful to hear from people about the topic after.
Yes.
Because it obviously 4 or 5 answers aren't all encompassing. There might be some different perspectives. Yes. So we got to think of a way to share more answers. But if you do have an opinion and an experience, you can send your video or even write your experience into Shaheed@gmail.com. That is SHAHSHEEB. If you're watching on YouTube, it's on the screen, at gmail.com. And then we'll find a place to share that so people can actually hear some more responses. And then next week, next episode, I don't want to say next week because I need some me time.
I need some me time.
I don't want to be podcasting all the time.
Yeah.
Anyways, do you want to tell the world what the question is for our next episode? I'm looking forward to this one. Because this one isn't complaining about being parents.
No, it's not. But you're hearing it and seeing it currently. Our question is all about social media and sharing our kids on social media. Is it too much? Can it be too much?
How
you
much
do it?
is too much? Do you do it? Yeah. So these are all the questions we'll explore. So if you have any thoughts on that currently and you want to be a part of the next episode or wherever else we decide to amalgamate all of these experiences and opinions, again, that email address, if you're watching on YouTube, is on the screen. If you're listening, it's somewhere in where you found our our podcast, but it's also Shaheed, SHAHSHEEB @gmail.com.
Our names are so similar. Just there's so many letters.
Okay, last thing here, you got to plug the podcast and all the other things we do and where you can find all those things. Go.
I'm not in charge of this, so I might make a mistake. You can find us at youtube.com/Shaheed. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts if you search Parents with Questions.
That's correct.
Oh, there we go. Ding, ding. I got 2 points. And you can find me at borntomom.ca if you want to follow along on my motherhood journey. And you're looking at me like there's more.
There is 2 more things.
Okay. Our Facebook page.
Oh, 3 more things.
Okay, I think 3 is good. I win.
Facebook.com/DevGFam.
Yes.
And the other 2 are Shaheed.ca is my website. There's nothing really
Not
there,
important.
So you don't need to. Man, what's happening here? And then the last thing is, you just didn't mention Google Play. If you don't have an iPhone and you want to listen to the podcast, Google Play is a place to do that.
Yeah, we don't discriminate, guys.
Oh, man.
No.
All right. So that's 2 episodes. Maybe we'll do another one soon.
Lots of answers. No judgments. Just bring it in.
Lots of discussion. No
there
answers.
you go. Bye.
Bye.